Rev up your engines!
Keith Roy 2 says, Scotty, should I buy a 2008 Honda Accord with a bad VTEC actuator? Manufacturer said there's no harm to the engine. Well, technically there's no harm to the engine, but you lose a lot of pickup, it won't run right, and you don't really know what the problem is until somebody takes the engine apart and finds out what's wrong. Don't ever buy a car that has any code, that has anything to do with the VTEC system, because you never know what's actually wrong until it's fixed. Those codes that everybody gets, including me, are relatively generic codes, and there can be sometimes 10 to 20 different things that cause the same code. And never buy a used car that has a code that has a VTEC problem, and it's just not worth it. Abu Talib says synthetic oil versus mineral oil in terms of longevity. The synthetic oil does generally last longer, but you have to realize there's no such thing as just, oh, synthetic oil. There are laws for what synthetic oil is constituted of in the United States, and it has to do with regular oil that has been somewhat modified. And there's no rules exactly how to modify it, so they can be done various ways. The only true 100% synthetic oil that I know of is the Pennzoil Pure Platinum one. It's made in a factory that takes gas that comes out of the ground and converts it into oil. That's the process the Nazis invented in World War II. They took coal, they turned it to gas, then they turned it into diesel oil and lubricating oil for their tanks and stuff. It's kind of an inefficient process, but that's what it's made out of. So it turns gas into oil, and that's a full synthetic oil. It's very good oil, but it costs an awful lot of money. The synthetic oils generally do last longer, but some of these people are claiming now, like the Mobile One, that you can change your oil every 20,000 miles. That's under very different situations, like if you only drive on the highway and you still change it once a year, so it's kind of BS, really. But they do last longer. But since you're paying 2 to 3 times as much, you got to decide, what would I rather do? Change my regular oil twice as much as the synthetic oil for the same price, which to me is a better deal, because then, hey, you're getting clean oil every 3 to 5,000 miles instead of going 8 or 9. Or pay for the more expensive one and change it less frequently. It's all your choice. Thomas Bartol. Scotty, I have a 2013 Toyota Matrix with 85,000 kilometers. You must be in Canada. Wanted to replace the ATF with a simple drain and fill, only 2.5 quarts drained out. Uses WS fluid. Is drain and fill effective for these transmissions? Yes, it's very effective. Those cars have very good transmissions. As a matter of fact, my wife used to have one. I inherited it. 2007 Matrix, which was made in Cambridge, Ontario. Yes, it was a Canadian car. Best car we ever had for a small car. Now, it doesn't ride as good as the Lexus that I got her, but it runs great. That's a very good way of taking care of those cars. 85,000 kilometers is like, what, 40-something thousand miles? Just keep doing that and use the quality fluid. It doesn't cost much, and that's how you maintain them. The problem with transmissions are only some of the fluid comes out when you change it. So if you do it religiously, like you're going to be doing it, do it every 40, 50,000 miles, it's fine, it stays clean. But if you wait until it's got 150,000, all the dirt is still in most of it that's left, and that little bit you take out doesn't help it. So just keep doing it. You're doing the right thing. Daniel Harris Dewey says, Scotty, what do you think of a 2008 Volvo Xc90 with 3.2 all-wheel drive? I bought one with 90,000 miles. I'm worried about the transmission valve body as there was a factory defect. One, I would never buy a late model Volvo. Pretty soon Volvo is going to stop making gasoline and diesel cars. 2019, they're owned by Geely, a Chinese corporation now, and they said in 2019, which is next year, they're only going to be producing electric cars or hybrid cars. But you bought it. I hope you didn't pay too much for it, because they really don't have that good resale value. But you have it. You might as well take care of it. But there's a defect on those things, and there's not going to do. Volvo never warranties their things very long, and especially not an 11-year-old one. That if you are worried and you can sell it for close to what you paid, I'd say do that now. Austin Overby says, I have a Ford Fusion Hybrid that jerks when it switches from gas to battery at 47 miles per hour. Is that normal? If not, what's the issue? Well, it's not normal. Of course, they don't do that when they're brand new. You've got one of those fancy hybrid cars, and now it's getting old. And as they age, man, they get expensive to repair. Super expensive to repair. If that's all it does and it works fine otherwise, personally, I'd live with it. But if you do want to see what's wrong, you're going to have to pay a guy like me. I have equipment to work on. Hook up their fancy $5,000 and up scan tool, take it for a road test until it does that problem. Then we push a button, and the button saves the data. for the last 45 seconds. So once it starts shuddering and doing that, I push the save, and it saves back in time 45 seconds, because it's always saving 45 seconds. Then I analyze the data and see if there's any codes and see what could possibly be wrong. A guy like me, a really good mechanic, is going to need it for that. But if you can do that and you want to pay for that, go ahead and you'll get more information. But when he tells you what it's going to cost to fix it, you'll probably say, whoa, I don't want to spend that kind of money.
So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.